Someone in a passing car shot at him at least 3 times, causing him to crash his van.
The reason I knew my homeboy Stretch set me up is because my homeboys knew I was strapped. And they didn't do nothing. They knew I was strapped.
Footage from news crews captured the crime scene of Randy Stretch Walker, whose car was overturned after a drive-by shooting, which had occurred in November of 1995. The incident had taken place exactly a year to the day of Tupac's 1994 quad recording studio robbery, where Tupac believed Stretch had helped with setting him up to be shot 5 times. Tupac's unreleased lyrics, copied from the Tupac Library in Atlanta, referred to Stretch's group Live Squad as Death Squad. Former Death Row Records head of security Reggie Wright Jr., who was responsible for Tupac's security during his time on the label, has claimed in several interviews that he feels as if a Tupac associate may have been responsible for the murder of Stretch. Tupac had released a hit list from prison in 1995, which had included the people involved in the 1994 shooting of Tupac. The hit list included Stretch's name, who is believed to have been paid $2,500 to set up Tupac. Many different theories have been put forward regarding who is behind the unsolved crime. In this video, we're going to take a look into the unsolved death of Randy Stretch Walker and the possible ties into Tupac knowing about the hit. Randy Walker, also known by his nickname of Stretch, was born in Queens, New York in 1968 and had received the nickname of Stretch for standing at 6 feet 8 inches tall by the time he was a teenager. With hip-hop originating in the Bronx in the 70s being over 11 miles away from Stretch's hometown of Queens, it had soon began to spread throughout New York and the world during the 1980s. In the late 1980s, Stretch and his brother Majesty, along with DJ K-Lo, had formed a group called the Live Squad. Live Squad became a hip-hop rap group and production team coming out of Hollis, Queens, which started releasing songs independently in 1988. Prior to releasing music in 1988, Stretch had become associated with several gangs in New York. Stretch's brother Majesty, part of the Live Squad, was also a member of a gang from Hollis, Queens called the Young Guns. Some of the Young Guns members included Homicide, who was the cousin of E Moneybags. Stretch's brother Majesty was said to be the person who had given E Moneybags his nickname. E Moneybags had joined the Young Guns during his teenage years due to his cousin Homicide, who was already a super active and notable member of the Young Guns, being with Stretch's brother Majesty. The Young Guns in 1991 were involved in a heated war with another gang called the Lost Boys, and a shootout had occurred on Christmas Eve of 1991, which had resulted in E Moneybags of the Young Guns allegedly killing 15-year-old Tremaine Hall of the Lost Boys. The Young Guns' rival gangs were the Lost Boys and the Hollis Jr.'s crew. Stretch from the Young Guns also became associated with the A-Team gang of the Cypress Hills Projects, which is a 20-minute drive from Queens. The projects birthed a gang called the A-Team in 1983, with the original gang being formed by a group of 5%ers of the neighborhood in order to fight against Jamaican drug gangs taking over the territory. The 5%ers is a black nationalist movement influenced by Islam, which had been started by a man using the name of Allah the Father, which had started in Harlem before spreading across New York. The A-Team was formed in 1983 by a 5%er by the name of Mr. Damu, with the name standing for the Allah Team. The 5%ers also spawned another gang through Kenneth Supreme McGriff known as the Supreme Team, who would later be responsible for killing E Moneybags. Walter King Tut Johnson was born in the Cypress Hills Projects in the eastern section of Brooklyn, with the A-Team gang being formed in the Cypress Hills Projects when King Tut was 20 years old. Tut became associated to the gang by coming from the territory. King Tut, along with a guy called Haitian Jack, were known to be stick-up kids who were involved in a long list of robberies known for robbing drug dealers, with it being the A-Team gang who are fighting against Jamaican drug gangs in the territory. This is where Haitian Jack and King Tut became associated and started repping the A-Team gang, with Haitian Jack falsely believing it was started by Little Rick Martin, who had been in prison when the gang had formed. Therefore, King Tut and Haitian Jack were now seen as repping the A-Team, being from King Tut's association to the Cypress Hills Projects. Brian Glaze Gibbs from Cypress Hills has claimed that people are misinformed into thinking that King Tut and Haitian Jack were members of the original A-Team gang, when in fact they had started repping it with no association to the original gang. Many photos of Stretch and Haitian Jack together have been captured, with them appearing in nightclubs together and sporting Rolexes which possibly may have been stolen by the robbery gang. Stretch being associated to robbing drug dealers may have caused his demise later on in life. Stretch in 1991 had met Shock G of the Bay Area hip-hop group Digital Underground, with him featuring on their 1991 album and his group Live Squad remixing a single from the album. Stretch, while with Digital Underground, had met Tupac Shakur in 1991, who had been acting as a roadie and backup dancer for Digital Underground. Stretch had also backed Tupac on an episode of Yo MTV Raps to perform his single If My Homie Calls. Stretch was also close friends with the host of MTV Raps Ed Lover, who had helped Live Squad get signed to Tommy Boy Records, which Live Squad had made several songs under up until 1993, but they were considered as too hardcore for radio play, so Tommy Boy had dropped them before they could release an album with the songs which they had made. During this time, a member of the Young Guns was jumped by a member of the Lost Boys, and in retaliation, E Moneybagg, Stretch and Tupac had gone to their hood to shoot it up. Tupac started to rise in fame during this time from his role in the movie Juice, and while filming for Juice, Young Guns member Homicide was hesitant to meet Tupac, as E Moneybags was trying to introduce him after meeting through Stretch. But at first, Homicide couldn't see past Tupac playing out of the character of Bishop in Juice, thinking that he was a poser, only until later when seeing him not in character, where they then became acquainted. Tupac, after filming for Juice, began to film for the movie Above the Rim in Harlem in 1993, where he became acquainted with Stretch's associates who were repping the A-Team gang. Stretch and Tupac continued to hang out with each other and make music together into 1993, with Stretch providing vocals and beats for Tupac's group album Thug Life. Tupac during this time was filming for the movie Above the Rim in Harlem, and while on the set, he had met one of Stretch's associates by the name of Haitian Jack. Tupac and Stretch during this time had recorded the song Pain, which was used on the Above the Rim soundtrack. Stretch would join Tupac and Haitian Jack at nightclubs together, as seen in various photos from the time. While at the exclusive Nell's nightclub in Manhattan on November 14th, 1993, Haitian Jack had introduced Tupac to a 19-year-old girl called Ayanna Jackson. Tupac was in his Manhattan hotel room a few days later with his road manager Charles Fuller, along with Haitian Jack and another unidentified person who was associated to Haitian Jack. Ayanna Jackson had then arrived at the hotel room claiming that one of them had invited her. Tupac claims the worst mistake he had made on that night was going to sleep and leaving the group together in a hotel room, as he claimed to have left them in the foyer area of the room while he slept in the ensuite.
Went to sleep, woke up. Next thing I know, I'm going to jail.
Is there anything that you would do differently?
Yeah.
What?
I would not have closed my eyes until she was out of the room, until everybody was out of the room.
Ayanna Jackson had left the hotel and immediately called her lawyer to build a case against Tupac, which she then followed up by calling the police. Tupac was captured by news reporters, being arrested shortly after based on the claims made against him, with the police also finding 2 illegal firearms in the hotel room, but neither of them had Tupac's fingerprints on them. Haitian Jack's lawyer Paul Brenner had Haitian Jack's case severed from Tupac's, given Haitian Jack a separate trial from the case, where his charges had been lowered to probation, while the unidentified man who was connected to him had not even been apprehended. Tupac started to believe that he was set up in an extortion attempt by Haitian Jack and the A-Team gang, believing that the girl and Haitian Jack were in on the plot together to scheme money out of Tupac.
She can make millions if she do it right. If she gets some guys and they all plan it, and that's exactly what they did.
Tupac had found out that before calling the police, the girl had first phoned her lawyer to start with putting a civil case together against Tupac in an attempt to be compensated.
She called her lawyer right after she left my hotel. Before she called the police, she called the civil suit.
Tupac believed this was then going to be split with Haitian Jack and others involved in the plot. Tupac had carried out an interview where he claimed P. Diddy was being extorted by gangsters in New York, and had further claimed that when he came in, he had messed everything up.
The East Coast drug dealers got them as extortion. I came and up everything.
Haitian Jack, prior to the incident, was trying to get Tupac to sign to P. Diddy's label Bad Boy Records, and a New York gangster by the name of Jimmy Henchman was attempting to get Tupac to sign with his entertainment company to become his manager. Tupac had refused their requests and believed that when he had done this, they had then set him up in a case to be extorted, as they were unable to do it through the music industry. Tupac's trial for the case began in 1994, where he would further then be set up by Stretch and the A-Team gang. Tupac's trial went into 1994, and while in a nightclub, he had told New York Daily News reporter AJ Benzer that Mike Tyson had warned him about Haitian Jack, and how he had felt as if Haitian Jack had set him up in a case. Mike Tyson had been involved in a similar case just prior, which some believe may have been connected to the same extortionists. Tupac's words were reported in the New York Daily News the following day, and members of the A-Team gang and Jimmy Henchman had seen the claims and decided to do something about it for Tupac speaking out. Tupac's cousin William Lesane, while on Cytonia Live, claimed that he had seen paperwork on Haitian Jack, which had confirmed Haitian Jack to have been an informant.
We saw in his paperwork that he was a known informant. No bullshit. I saw it with my own eyes.
Yeah.
Haitian Jack's former roommate, Ori Spado, had also claimed that Haitian Jack was an FBI informant.
He was an informant for the FBI for a long time.
Tupac, during a live news broadcast outside of the courthouse on November 29, 1994, had made allegations of Haitian Jack being a snitch. Haitian Jack, with his association to the A-Team gang, claimed during an interview in a 2017 TV documentary Who Killed Biggie and Tupac that people associated with him started to plot against Tupac for bad-mouthing Haitian Jack due to how it would affect the reputation of the gang.
There's always one in the crowd that has something to prove. The person at the time, we were real cool, and he felt like Tupac had no right to say what he said about me, especially in New York City.
The day after the live broadcast of the snitch accusations, Tupac had been recording with Ron G, where he had gotten a message on his pager offering him work at Quad Recording Studio in Manhattan. The message offered him $7,000 for a feature verse for an artist being managed by Jimmy Henchman called Lil Sean. Tupac was unknowingly actually being set up by Jimmy Henchman to be shot by Dexter Isaac and King Tut. Jimmy Henchman admitted to then setting up Tupac to be shot in November of 1994 to humble him, which came after he had refused to sign to Bad Boy and began dissing Haitian Jack in the news. Dexter Isaac, one of the shooters, had claimed that Jimmy Henchman had paid Stretch $2,500 to help set up Tupac to be shot when he arrived at Quad Studio. Tupac, while heading to the studio, had received several messages from a rapper with Lil Sean asking for his whereabouts, and during this time Dexter Isaac had claimed that Stretch had allegedly been relaying information to the shooters, letting them know when Tupac would arrive. Tupac had 2 pistols on him while he travelled to the studio. Arriving at the studio shortly after midnight, Tupac and Stretch, along with others, had been approached by A-Team gang members Dexter Isaac and King Tut, who were dressed in camo fatigues and attempted to rob Tupac. Tupac had then reached for his pistols and was shot 5 times. They then stole his jewelry except for a $25,000 Rolex given to him by Haitian Jack. Audio has been released which has Stretch dissing Tupac about the Quad Studio incident, with him claiming that in the moment Tupac had shot himself.
Tupac got shot trying to go for his gun or whatever. He did something to his mother, so I'm gonna give him a chance to tell the world what he did to his mother.
Tupac spoke on Stretch in an interview and claimed he knew that he had set him up because they had stood down during the robbery when all they had to do was intervene and Tupac could have drew his pistols.
The reason I knew my homeboy Stretch set me up is because my homeboys knew I was strapped and they didn't do nothing. They knew I was strapped.
Instead, Dexter Isaac had claimed Stretch was paid by henchmen to set up Tupac, which included standing down during the incident and relaying his location to ensure that the shooters would know when he would be arriving. Tupac was seen in a wheelchair attending court the day after the shooting, where he was declared guilty in the case with Haitian Jack. Tupac, while he was recovering, was taking refuge at actress Jasmine Guy's house, where Stretch began relaying information from Jimmy Henchman to Tupac. Tupac's artist Napoleon, who was with him at the time, had found this strange as Stretch was supposed to be Tupac's friend, but was relaying information back from the person who had set him up. Stretch had told Tupac that Jimmy Henchman had told him to tell him not to go to war unless he had his money right. Tupac would be incarcerated in early 1995, and Stretch's backstabbing ways would continue. Tupac was sentenced to 4 years in prison in February of 1995 and served time in Rikers Island and Clinton Correctional Facility. While in prison, Tupac began to put the pieces together and realized he had been set up in multiple ways by the A-Team gang and Stretch. He had come to see that he felt as if he was falsely imprisoned under an extortion attempt and was set up by Stretch when he started speaking out. Tupac began writing several letters from prison where he created hit lists, which he labeled as the Walking Walking Dead. The first hit list letter which he had wrote included those who he believed were involved in the setup, including Stretch, Jimmy Henchman, Lil Sean, along with King Tut and others. Tupac had wrote a secondary hit list letter, with it being written to one of his exes called Desiree Smith, who Tupac remained close with. This letter labelled The Walking Dead as Haitian Jack, King Tut and Jimmy Henchman. Tupac didn't know that during this time, Stretch had been getting Desiree Smith to meet with him by telling her that he would give her information about Tupac's jail stay so she could get more information about visiting. Stretch instead had tried to get with Desiree Smith behind Tupac's back while he was locked up, but Desiree had turned him down. Stretch, while Tupac was locked up, began hanging out with Nas and continued to do shows with Biggie, who Tupac was openly beefing with, as Biggie and P. Diddy were at the recording studio when Tupac was shot, with Tupac believing they may have been part of the setup. P. Diddy's former bodyguard Gene Dill claimed that P. Diddy knew that Tupac was about to be dealt with at the studio. E. Moneybags had visited Tupac while he was in prison and was one of the few people to let him know that it was Jimmy Henchman along with the A-Team gang who had set him up. Collectively, Jimmy Henchman had paid A-Team members King Tut and Dexter Isaac, along with Young Gun's member Stretch, to set up Tupac in a 1994 shooting. Tupac had two New York gangs out to get him due to the result of Jimmy Henchman financing them, from Tupac's belief and outspokenness of them setting him up in a 1993 legal case, which he felt was really an extortion attempt. Tupac was beefing with P. Diddy and Biggie, with P. Diddy being aligned with Jimmy Henchman, and Tupac believed, as stated in an interview, that P. Diddy was being extorted by henchmen. Tupac began to be visited by Suge Knight while he was in prison, as Suge Knight wanted Tupac to join his record label Death Row Records. When Tupac was shot in 1994, Suge Knight had sent him a bulletproof vest with the Death Row logo on the back and told him don't get scared now. Tupac had told Suge Knight during the visit of what had happened in New York and the gangs he had been set up by. Suge Knight had been beefing with P. Diddy during that same year, as one of his closest friends, who was a Campanella Park Compton Pyru by the name of Jake Robles, had been murdered in Atlanta in September of 1995 by someone called Jason Brown, who had been with P. Diddy, and had happened after Suge and them had gotten into an argument. Suge Knight was a member of the Compton MOB Pyrus and was affiliated with other blood sets. Suge Knight, through the Bloods, was believed to have been connected to several killers for the Bloods, such as Wardell Poochie Faust, who investigators believe may have acted as a hitman for Suge Knight. Suge Knight has also been rumoured to have been connected to corrupt cops, who some investigators claim were acting as hitmen for hire for Suge. Suge Knight used his attorney David Kenner to help with getting Tupac released from prison in October of 1995, and he had joined Death Row Records. Tupac was now sided with the Compton MOB Bloods and was put on by members Trayvon Lane and Buntree, being through the request of Suge Knight. Tupac, when he was released, had recorded the song Holler At Me, which is a diss towards Ayanna Jackson, Stretch and Biggie. A month later, on the year anniversary of the 1994 shooting, Stretch was murdered in a drive-by shooting. Stretch was on his way to a Biggie Smalls event after leaving a recording session with Nas. Stretch dropped off his brother Majesty in his green minivan, and when leaving, 3 men had pulled up in a black car and began to chase Stretch while firing out the windows. Stretch's car had rolled over while crashing, and he was found dead with 4 bullets to the back. News crews captured the scene, including his body in the car, but that part won't be shown here. Witnesses claimed one of the shooters was Ronald Tinnard Washington, who was a member of the Hollis Jr.'s crew that were rivals of Stretch's Young Gun's crew. Stretch was accused of setting up a robbery of someone in Queens, and a hit was put out on his life, and Ronald Tinnard Washington and members of the Hollis Jr.'s crew had taken the hit. A confidential informant had said, quote, "A hit was issued and Tinnard and 3 other men took it. They turned that van into Swiss cheese with the AK-47, and they had orders to make sure that at the very least Stretch was dead." Unquote. Other people have speculated that maybe Stretch's brother Majesty was the real target, which is why it had taken place in such close proximity to him being dropped off at home. Therefore, the hitmen were there waiting outside to begin with opening fire on Stretch. Ronald Washington was found guilty for the 2002 murder of Jam Master Jay in Queens, being 22 years after the murder had taken place in 2024. Prosecutors claim that Jam Master Jay was connected to a high-ranking black mafia family associate associate and had threatened to cut Washington out of a large-scale deal, leading to him murdering Jam Master Jay. Prosecutors looked into Ronald Washington's past and had brought up Stretch's murder. Prosecutors claimed that they have at least 3 witnesses who claimed Ronald Washington was the man who had shot and killed Stretch, being during an attempt to shoot Stretch's brother Christopher Majesty Walker in 1995. The prosecution also alleges that they had ID'd a person that was in the car with Washington when the shooting had occurred, but that witness would have to plead the Fifth Amendment in order to testify due to allegedly being involved in the crime. Prosecutors claim Ronald Washington has been labeled as the killer in the Stretch murder since the early 2000s, but he was never charged in the case. Federal prosecutors brought up the Stretch homicide during Ronald Washington's 2007 robbery case, but the judge refused to hear the accusation. Prosecutors alleged that Ronald Washington had a long-running feud with the Young Guns, and Washington was named as a member of the Hollis Jr.'s crew, being a rival of the Young Guns, with the Young Guns allegedly killing Ronald Washington's brother. In a court filing, prosecutors had wrote about Washington's involvement in Stretch's murder, saying, quote, "At the time, Washington believed that he was firing at Young Guns member Majesty, Stretch's brother." Unquote. Death Row Records' former head of security and former Compton cop Reggie Wright Jr. claimed he believes Tupac was responsible for Stretch getting hit. Not only did Tupac make a hit list with Stretch's name on it while in prison, with Stretch then getting killed a month after Tupac's release, but he was also killed exactly a year after the 1994 shooting, which Stretch was believed to have set up Tupac in. Reggie Wright Jr. claimed that they had had an associate in New York at the time of Stretch's killing, and when he had came back after it was carried out, Tupac had hugged him as if he was his girlfriend, with Reggie insinuating that he was thanking him for carrying out the hit. Unreleased lyrics from Tupac's library in Atlanta revealed that Tupac had wrote a song about putting a hit out on Stretch, where he referred to Live Squad as Death Squad. Tupac would further address Stretch's death in a song which he had wrote between July and August of 1996. In the song called Against All Odds, Tupac had referred to Stretch's death in saying, quote, "Switch sides, guess his new friends wanted him dead," unquote. This was in referencing how Stretch had turned his back on Tupac and began siding with the people Tupac was beefing with, and Tupac adding that who he had begun associating with may have wanted him dead. Tupac also referenced what Stretch had relayed to him from Jimmy Henchman, as he says in the outro, quote, "I just remember what you told me. You said don't go to war unless I got my money right. I got my money right. Now I want war," unquote. This was as he had the backing of Death Row Records' $500 million fortune behind him, with him saying in an interview they had all the money in the world, but not him personally, but that of the record label. In the song, Tupac accused P. Diddy of being robbed by Jimmy Henchman, being through the extortion rumors. He had also claimed that he was coming for Jimmy Henchman and claimed he had gunshots for King Tut. He had also addressed Haitian Jack as a snitch, and addressed both the 1993 setup and the 1994 shooting. Tupac had also addressed they had the Compton MOB Pyrus backing him against the New York gangs of the A-Team and the Young Guns. Jimmy Henchman was then believed to have put out a secondary hit through P. Diddy, being to the Southside Compton Crips. The Southside Compton Crips were associated to P. Diddy, being through New York gangster Eric Zip Martin. Zip, who was from Harlem, had owned a record label called Black Rock Records, and owned multiple nightclubs in New York. Zip had also co-executive produced records with Jimmy Henchman. Zip had also worked with Blackground Records boss Barry Hankerson, who was Aaliyah's uncle, with Aaliyah once being signed to Zip's record label Black Rock Records. Zip was also the godfather of Biggie's son. Zip was associated to the Santana Block Crips in Compton, where he was then introduced to Keefy D of the Southside Compton Crips, where Keefy D claimed they then started doing underworld business together. Keefy D was then introduced to P. Diddy, and P. Diddy and Biggie then became associated to the Crips in Compton. The New York gangs connected to Jimmy Henchman and P. Diddy then became bridged through the connection with Zip to the Crip gangs in Compton. Through their connection to the Southside Compton Crips, Biggie and P. Diddy were affiliated with different subsets and would hang out in Crip territories. Biggie was known to hang out with the Boris Block Compton Crips, which was a subset of the Southside Compton Crips, who were posted up on Boris Avenue in Compton, where Biggie was identified as hanging out at, being by Crips in a YouTube video for Channel Street TV. South Park in Compton, belonging to the Southside Compton Crips, was also a place where Biggie and P. Diddy would hang out with the Crips. Keefe D, being a Southside Compton Crip who was arrested in September of 2023 for the murder of Tupac, had claimed in a secretly recorded confession tape in 2008 that he allegedly met with P. Diddy and Zip in the Greenblatt's Deli in Los Angeles, being in the summer of 1996, where P. Diddy allegedly put out a hit to the Southside Compton Crips, being on the head of Tupac for $1 million. Keefe D claimed Zip and P. Diddy were on a double date, with P. Diddy being set up with a neighborhood girl from the Southside Compton Crips. Keefe D claimed to have gone to the restaurant with some Crips, and him and the Crips had ate together, while Zip and P. Diddy had their own table. Keefe D claimed Zip was believed to have known about the $1 million bounty, insinuating that it had been discussed prior with P. Diddy and his New York associates. Keefe D claimed in his book Compton Street Legend that P. Diddy had allegedly pulled him to one side and put out a hit on Tupac. Keefe D in his recorded confession had claimed that it was with this discussion that an alleged $1 million bounty was created and put on the head of Tupac. A Southside Compton Crip confidential informant had also told the police that there was an outstanding $1 million bounty from Bad Boy Records to the Southside Compton Crips. The unedited audio of Keefe D's secretly recorded confession of this alleged discussion was officially submitted into court as evidence implicating P. Diddy in January of 2024 due to events which had followed the discussion. Keefe D, who was eventually arrested for the Tupac murder, had claimed in a secretly recorded confession that himself and fellow Southside Compton Crips, including his nephew Orlando Anderson, had carried out a drive-by shooting on Tupac in September of 1996, which resulted in Tupac dying. Keefe D in a recorded confession claimed that the Crips had done it under the intention of claiming the $1 million bounty. Keefe D claimed in the confession that after the hit had taken place, he had met up with Zip at a wing stop in Los Angeles in order to talk about the $1 million bounty. He claimed while there, Zip had talked to P. Diddy and Faith Evans over the phone, who had asked Zip was that us, being in reference to the Tupac hit, and Zip had told them it was. Keefe D claimed that he was then told that Zip would be giving him the money shortly after. P. Diddy's former bodyguard Gene Deal has claimed in several different interviews to have seen what he believes was the $1 million check, which was acting as the bounty for the Tupac hit, which he had claimed Jimmy Henchman had given to Zip, for Zip to then give it to the Southside Compton Crips through his affiliation. The check was claimed to have been disguised to be laundered under a managing check for artist Tank, being from Blackground Records of Barry Hankerson, with the money really have meant to been going to the Southside Compton Crips from Jimmy Henchman, being as a payment for murdering Tupac. The FBI claimed to have found out that this check was used by Zip to buy a nightclub called the Zip Code, which was located on Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard in New York, after Zip had kept the money for himself. The nightclub was located on 2207 Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard, which is now a vacant church. This would mean the financial records of the purchase of the club would trace back to the check from Jimmy Henchman, which was allegedly initially the $1 million bounty for Tupac's life to the Southside Compton Crips. The Boris Block Compton Crips, which were a subset of the Southside Compton Crips, who were affiliated with P. Diddy and his New York connections, had gone through renaming their territory based on the hit, which was rumored to have been financed by Jimmy Henchman through P. Diddy. After Tupac was murdered, the Boris Block Crips renamed the territory to Boris Lane, being after Orlando Baby Lane Anderson, who Keefe D had claimed in his recorded confession had allegedly carried out the hit in a contract by P. Diddy, which was later claimed to have been funded by Jimmy Henchman. The Against All Odds diss track, which addressed Jimmy Henchman, Stretch and Haitian Jack, had been released 2 months after Tupac's death. This information alleges that Jimmy Henchman financed Tupac to be set up twice, with the first using Stretch and the A-Team gang in 1994, where Tupac was shot 5 times but survived, followed by a secondary hit financing the Southside Compton Crips through Zip and P. Diddy, which resulted in Tupac being hit 4 times and dying. In this video, we took a look into Stretch's believed connection into the setup of the 1994 Tupac shooting. One of the shooters in the incident claimed that Jimmy Henchman had paid Stretch $2,500 to set up Tupac and stand down during the incident. Jimmy Henchman claimed he had set it up for Tupac to be humbled while Haitian Jack claimed it was done from Tupac being outspoken on the news about Haitian Jack and his affiliates. With Stretch being killed exactly a year after the incident and Tupac creating a hit list with Stretch's name on it, people have speculated that maybe Tupac may have had something to do with Stretch's death, using the available hitmen from Death Row Records. Others feel Stretch was murdered from the rival gang of the Hollis Jr.'s crew, with 3 witnesses naming Ronald Washington as one of the shooters, who was a member of the Hollis Jr.'s crew. Some believe Ronald Washington carried out the murder after Stretch's crew, the Young Guns, had robbed someone and a hit was put out on them, with Ronald Washington's crew taking the hit. Stretch's murder still remains unsolved. Ronald Washington was found guilty for the murder of Jam Master Jay in Queens, being 22 years after the murder in 2024. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, smash the thumbs up button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and press that bell button so you can get all the future notifications for when I upload. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.